Yeah, and this is a matchup we've seen once or twice throughout this tournament already as we're getting the prize cards laid out here. Looks like nothing too crazy. The double vessel there for Abaan could lead things to be a little bit slow in terms of the energy department for him, but has all the pieces in the deck to make it function. Only one Gardevoir EX prize. Of course, the double Guardy EX being prized, the dreaded prize cards not happening this time around.
Yeah, that is going to have access to at least one, so that is going to work out nicely for him as we are getting ready to get into this game. Now, Azul, on paper, who do you give the edge to in this matchup? The Mega player or the Guardy player?
I think you got to give it to the Guardy player. There's so many ways they can tackle the game. They can get ahead in the prize exchange. They can make the big comebacks. And they have that really powerful Mew to kind of keep tempo with you potentially as well.
Yeah, that's it. So getting into things right away here, Hale Obernolte was going first. He has started Badoo, drew and passed right over immediately to Abaan's turn. I don't think Abaan's playing Air Balloon like he was in his list that he used in Pittsburgh, but if there's an Air Balloon in this list, he could actually win the game this turn. No Air Balloon?
No Air Balloon, no
Okay.
Frillish, so there's no item lock to play for on the first turn. Yeah, the slap from the Screamtail is not coming out this time. I guess Hale missed the notes from, missed the memo from all the other Mega Absol, Mega Kangaskhan players. Does not have the trolley in the opening hand going first like we've seen so many times throughout this event. I guess Hale is the one of them who has to suffer. Someone has to be sacrificed for the rest to thrive in that situation.
Yeah, no opening trolley for Hale. And we do see that Badoo. That's not something we've seen from most of the other Mega Kangaskhan players.
Yep, a little bit different of a build here. I mean, not too different. A lot of the same stuff, the cornerstones. Kangaskhan's, of course, Absol, Yveltal as well. It doesn't have the Tatsugiri, which we just saw a little while ago. Has the Badoo, and only has 2 Monkey Dories, which I think is a pretty big standout, and could be something that comes up throughout this game as well. The Monkey Dory back and forth with a lot of decks in the format. More Monkey Dories is a big deal. Abaan can definitely get the Monkey Dory advantage, possibly in the late game, but has all the standard stuff. Probably going to go down very similar lines that we've seen from the other Absol players. Turbo Energize, get the Absol set up, and then kind of go from there.
And for Abaan, this Gardevoir list is actually really unique. It's quite a bit different from any other list we've seen.
Yeah, the big standout card is going to be that Enamorous in here for a Psychic and 2 colorless energy, does 80 damage, and then if any of your Pokemon play have the same type as any of your opponent's Pokemon play, you do 120 more damage. So can it hit for 200 damage? And it is likely that Hale will have something like a Monkey Dory in play, or maybe an Absol, and then Abaan could bench
Latias.
a Pheasantipede. Yeah, it's very likely you can match the types on the board to be able to hit for 200 with the Enamorous, which is a 1-prizer. And that just has solid numbers, right, to be able to hit for.
Turn 1 was really weak for Hale, just a Badoo and a pass. No other Pokemon to put down, no energy card, but it will be made a bit better here with an Arven Find, able to search the deck for an item card and a Pokemon tool. Have to imagine that will lead to a Precious Trolley to fill the board here.
Yeah, I'd have to imagine. I think that Arven was maybe a top deck as well. I didn't see it in Hale's opening hand. Maybe it was there. I'm not sure if there's the energy in hand to lead to a potential Turbo Energize, but even if there is, Hale might want to opt for that Itchy Pollen instead, take away the potential of a Candy Gardevoir. Although we did just see Abaan Ultra Ball away a Candy on the first turn of the game, and I think Abaan's hand is basically dead besides a Pheasantipede. I think Abaan is playing through a Fez in this hand here, so as long as Hale doesn't draw a prize card this turn, Abaan is probably not doing very much on the next turn, and Hale has no way to draw a prize card this turn.
So it will be the Precious Trolley found for Hale. Worth noting here as well for Abaan, this Gardevoir list, you know, it's got that Enamorous, definitely unique, but it's different in some other ways too. Not reliant on Arven as its main draw supporter. Yep. It's all about Lily's determination, just shuffling in and draw six during the game, but 8 early on. But a part of that is the lack of technical machine evolution. There's no TM Evo to play through, so Badoo's Itchy Pollen is much, much more impactful than it normally would be.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know if Hale is aware of that, but Abaan is playing 3 Rare Candy, only 1 Kirlia, no TM Evo like you mentioned. So kind of almost conceding to Badoo decks in a way. Not 100%, but those are going to definitely be a lot tougher of matchups. The trade-off there is, of course, that he does have room for Turbo Energize, actually. He's running 2 Turbo Energize, so that is an aggressive way to get energy in play and actually set up attackers without needing Gardevoir EX as well. So even though the Badoo can slow you down with the Itchy Pollen, if Abon could find like the Enamorus and then just Turbo Energize to it, he could still be attacking for 200 damage on the following turn.
Mega Absol, Mega Kangaskhan EX, Petron EX, Latias EX, and Monkey Dory added to the field for Hale. There's an energy attachment onto the Mega Absol EX, and Itchy Pollen will throw 10 damage over to that Monkey Dory. Now the draw for turn 4, Abon. Is he able to find a supporter, any sort of help? I don't see it, Azul. He does have a Psychic Energy. Is he going to start swinging with the Monkey Dory? He actually has that one of Kirlia, and he could retreat this Monkey Dory and go for the call sign.
Yeah, and because Hale didn't use Turbo Energize on the previous turn, I don't think there's a threat to actually KO the Kirlia on this next turn. I can't think of anything. I'm pretty sure there's nothing available for Hale to take a knockout next turn, and that's a pretty free call sign for Abon if he wants to take that route. And if he doesn't, he's kind of fully telegraphing his options on the next turn. It's, I'm hoping to top deck, or I'm hoping you take a knockout so I can draw with Fez. I think the call sign makes a ton of sense here. You could go get something like that Mew EX to provide you draw power, find Ralts, another Monkey Dory, maybe a follow-up attacker. Give yourself some options.
That is exactly what Abon is going to do. Retreat into Kirlia and use the call sign. Searching the deck for up to 3 Pokemon. I have to imagine Gardevoir EX will certainly be one, a Ralts another. But for this third Pokemon, what is the best play?
I did see him eyeing up the Iron Bundle for a second there, and I definitely don't hate that. The thing with Badoo is you never want to KO Badoo. KOing Badoo is one of the worst things you can basically ever do as a deck that especially contains Monkey Dory, because you'll be able to pick it off the bench later on. So Iron Bundle would move to push it out of the way, and Screamtail could work as well to snipe around it.
One thing to consider, though, Hale does play a lot of Penny in his deck. In fact, 4 copies of Penny available here for Hale, so he could clear this out of play as a threat. So that is another thing to weigh for Abon. You know, does he want to take that odd prize right now? Which does weigh nicely into KOing a Mega Pokemon and then something like Petrons.
Yeah, definitely. See the Mist Energy come down to the Absol for Hale, which is a big card in this matchup. This will prevent the potential of the Mew EX copying the Terminal Period, combined with 2 Monkey Dories on Abon's side to effectively one-hit KO the Mega Absol EX. So the Mist Energy find here is huge.
And for Hale, it will be an Iono played as the supporter. Both players will shuffle their hands, put them on the bottom of the deck, and then draw a number of cards equal to the number of prize cards they have remaining. A card that is excellent support early on, but a great disruption option later in the game. There is a Bravery Charm being found for Hale, placed now on to that Mega Absol EX, boosting its HP by 50, and he is content to continue on item locking Abon. The Itchy Pollen, and that Iono was really nice for Hale. It does refresh Abon's hand, so I don't think he hates it, but it sends all those powerful Pokemon to the bottom of the deck.
Yeah, definitely. At that point, even though you know Abon doesn't have a whole ton going on, the Pokemon that were found should give Abon a lifeline there. So is it content with doing that? I get nervous every time Hale makes the hand motion. It seems like he's passing and not using Itchy Pollen. So I get nervous that he forgot the Itchy Pollen there, but he is announcing it, of course. We just can't hear him, and once again, the item lock is established. But this Lily here from Abon could still give him all he needs.
A huge find for that Lily's Determination. Abon able to shuffle the rest of the hand into the deck, now drawing 8 cards since no prize cards have been taken. If he can find a Gardevoir EX and perhaps a Psychic Energy Screamtail, he can start to put a little pressure on Hale if he wants to. But so consistently in our top cut, Azul, we have seen players play things slow and be patient and go for setup plays. Do you expect more of that?
Probably not in this situation, unless Abon felt like giving over. No, yeah, I think in this situation, you do just want to try and rack up damage as soon as possible. Whether Hale has access to Boss KO Kirlia or Boss KO a Gardevoir, you're not having access to your Gardevoir on the next turn anyway, so you may as well set up some kind of threat in play, so that way if your Gardevoir does get KO'd, you still have something to do. But it looks like Abon does not have much going on off of that Lily.
Yeah, just
at all.
Retreat of the Kirlia into the Monkey Dory, attaching now a Psychic Energy. And I think Abon has to be expecting a Mega Absol attack here from Hale.
Yeah, and it would be pretty devastating if it did connect with that Kirlia. However, I don't think Hale has the play in hand right now.
Yeah, would need a Darkness Energy and a Boss's Orders.
Which could be found by drawing 2 cards with Kangaskhan, and all of the mobility Pokemon are set up, the Latias and the Petron EX, so you could get Kangaskhan into the active. And
he
then
does have Pokegear.
Yeah, and then still get Absol into the active, but it would be pretty unlikely to happen.
Would need to, off of the 2 cards found from Run Errand, find specifically Darkness Energy or Earthen Vessel. Not going to go for it, just content to go with Lily's Determination. And I think he would also be content here to just use Itchy Pollen again. Take another turn to get more established.
Yeah, I think that is probably the route Hale is leaning towards. Draw a lot of cards, guarantee the energy attachment for turn, and just build up towards that boss play potentially on the next turn. And I think he did find the pieces for it, just not going to be doing it this turn. With the Dark Energy, though, he could just swing into the active if he wants.
Yeah, he could, and it does look like he's maybe debating it here. An early aggressive use of the the Claw of Darkness could be strong, but no, it looks like Itchy Pollen was indeed just announced, and now we are back over to Abon, searching the deck for that Technical Machine Turbo Energize.
Yeah, gets the Turbo Energized. Definitely wants to try and establish another Ralt. You're really scared of the boss's orders play from Hale here. Even if Abon doesn't know the exact count, you know they play a pretty heavy count, and Hale does play the 4 boss's orders. Some of the other lists play 3, but whether it's 3 or 4, after Lily draws you 8 cards, and all the energy are established on the Mega Absol there, you know the potential is there, but I don't think Abon is going to be able to establish another Ralt here. Instead, it is going to be that Turbo Energized play I mentioned. The Enamorous is coming out early to get loaded up.
What an interesting card to see. Whenever I saw this in Abon and Henry Chow's deck list, I had to look up this card because not one I think we have ever expected to see in competitive play. Love Resonance, 80 plus. If any of your Pokemon in play are the same type as any of your opponent's Pokemon in play, this attack does 120 more damage. And you get a couple Monkey Dories in the mix. There's a lot of stuff you can KO with this Pokemon.
Yeah, Golden Go I think is one of the main ones. 200 damage plus 2 Monkey Dories would KO something like a Golden Go. And this is kind of, it's not the Ralts that maybe Abon would have also liked, but this does make it more difficult for Hale to completely neutralize Abon's board. Now, if Hale chases the Kirlia, the Enamorous will be able to come up and attack into the Mega Absol for 200 damage. If Hale chases the Enamorous, the Kirlia can become a guard for and set up any of Abon's threats.
Hale does retreat the Badoo into this Kangaskhan and is going for the boss's orders. Looks like he is ready to start going in with an attack. Boss's orders brings up this Kirlia attachment for turn to this Mega Kangaskhan, getting that ready as a potential attacker. And the Pecharunt EX's Subjugating Chains will push this Mega Absol EX into the active spot. It does poison it, but a very small trade-off to pay whenever you're taking out the Kirlia, limiting your opponent's access to Gardevoir. And let's not forget here, Claw of Darkness means that Hale will get to look at this hand and right away is going to hit that secret box.
Yeah, the secret boxes. There another powerful card that has a limited number of them is the Bravery Charms. It looks like is eyeing up the secret box. That takes away the potential for just a massive play on the next turn, but it doesn't. It's not a resource itself. It only finds you your resources. So if you remove the secret box, Abon can still find all the cards. The secret box could find you. And honestly, Iono and the Nest Ball here for Abon is maybe all he needs. Get another Ralts and then disrupt Hale's hand. So I don't know if the secret box would have been played on this next turn from Abon.
Abon does draw for turn, finds himself that Artisan. The stadium is going to be something that is really important in this matchup. We've seen so consistently how important it is for these opposing players against the Mega Absol, Mega Kangaskhan deck to bump the Lively Stadium. Want to make sure they have enough resources to get rid of that piece, to reduce the HP so that they can get through those Pokemon more efficiently. Earthen Vessel will be played. The floodgates are now open for Abon, no longer item locked, able to use these item cards, searching the deck for 2 energy cards, adding them to the hand. There's a pair of Psychic Energy going into this hand. If he has a way to discard them, could set up for something nice early, not nice in the next turn. He also does have that Enamorous powered up. Is he going to start swinging right away with this Love Resonance?
I think that has to be the play, and I think it has to go into the Mega Absol. Abon does play a single Gust effect in a counter catcher. Definitely want to try and save that probably for the late game. Going for like 2 prize cards on the Pecharunt is probably not worth it, and just getting that initial hit, setting up for the 2-hit KO on this Mega Absol is probably the route we will see Abon take. Now that we got that Ralts down, we feel a little bit more comfortable heading into the future turns.
Attachment for turn onto that Enamorous. Of course, Abon does still have Flip the Script available. He is going to choose to put Artisan in play and then play Iono as the supporter for turn, sending both players' hands to the bottom of the deck.
Yeah, I believe still does have the Flip the Script available as well, so we'll be seeing a lot of cards here for Abon. I'm not sure I like the Artisan placement here. Like you mentioned, we've seen some players definitely run into snags in the endgame dealing with those lively stadiums. And I feel like we could see that come up still. These Mega Pokemon have a lot of HP, but if they have more HP, it's that much harder to KO. So yeah, I'm not sure about this Artisan play from Abon, but we'll have to see if he's able to manage them as the game progresses.
Abon will retreat his Monkey Dory into Enamorous. I can't imagine that I would have predicted this, but yes, Love Resonance is being used as an attack here. 200 damage thanks to the both Monkey Dory and Latias EX in play for Hale Obernolte. I guess, you know, there's also the Phesandipides and the other dark Pokemon on the other side. Plenty of ways for this damage to be boosted. Now for Hale, what is his response going to be? This Mega Absol has taken a big hit.
Yeah, it's taken a big hit. I think the big question here for Hale is, do you try to attempt to set up Monkey Dories to heal some of this damage off the Mega Absol? It probably has taken too much damage to do that, so then now you need to look to your next threat here as Hale. And from the current board state, I feel like that has to be the Mega Kangaskhan. There's the Mist Energy in hand, so we can start to develop that further, and it'll be ready to go online if the Absol does fall to an attack from Abon on the next turn. So I think that's the route we'll see Hale take here, just set up that next threat. But for Abon, I feel like Abon is on tempo here to just be able to KO through 2 of these big Mega Pokemon back-to-back.
Supporter card being eyed up for turn. It will be Arven played by Hale, searching the deck for an item card and a tool card. Bravery Charm could be used to boost the HP of this Kangaskhan. Could also take something like the Badoo out of range of just an easy prize for Abon if he wants to, but have to imagine boosting the HP of the Mega Pokemon is going to be a priority. The question here is, what is the item card going to be that he looks to find?
Looks like it is that Vessel to potentially search out some Dark Energy. This does make me question whether or not the Absol is going to be, or the Monkey Dory will actually be attached to this turn. Of course, Hale does play an Energy Switch, so the Kangaskhan still could come online on the following turn. And I think it's really interesting where we are at this game now to reflect on Hale's early choice to Ichipollen over Turbo Energize. If we had gone the Turbo Energize route, the Monkey Dory would probably be established, and the threat of Kangaskhan would maybe be available as well. The Ichipollen did slow down Abon, but it doesn't seem to have done enough to really throw Abon off the prize trade at this point.
Yeah, really interesting that Abon has been able to get to this point without putting Gardevoir in play. The Turbo Energize on his side of the field, paying dividends, able to get those extra attachments. It looks like the Darkness Energy will actually be attached to the Pecharunt EX, making that his potential next attacker. And look at this, Azul. He is going to try to protect this Badoo.
Yeah, there's the Bravery Charm to the Badoo. That actually is, I didn't really take a look at that as far as the prize trade goes, because Abon definitely could have looked for, get through the Absol, and then if you can KO Badoo with a Monkey Dory, plus knock out the Pecharunt or the Latias, that is your other 3 prize cards. You don't have to go through 2 Megas here. So the Bravery Charm going to hopefully protect that Badoo for the rest of the game. Could even get the Lively Stadium in play at some point to protect it further. And there is the attack and the other Artisan here from Abon, which means if Hale can find a Lively Stadium, there's no more counter stadiums available.
Yeah, this is a big deal here. Could get rid of that, but Hale also could get rid of one of these Night Stretchers, a nice recovery piece. There's also Bravery Charm, Iono. Nest Ball is being eyed up as well. Looks like Bravery Charm is going to be the choice to discard from Hale.
Yeah, that might be with the idea of trying to KO the Pheasantipity at some point later in the game, and doesn't want that Bravery Charm to come down to the Pheasantipity to make it a harder KO for a Ursaluna or something like that in the end game. So I don't hate the Bravery Charm discard. It does make me question if Hale's valuing that so highly, maybe why not discard the other one previously, going for the Secret Box instead of that previous Bravery Charm, but the Secret Box, of course, is...
I think it's pretty hard to not get rid of Secret Box when you see it in your opponent's hand.
You see the pink card in the hand, and yeah, it definitely is hard to not discard it.
Deer in the headlights moment right there. Abon is going to send up the Monkey Dory here, and I think he'll be thankful that he did not have in his hand any of the pieces that combine into him getting a Gardevoir into play this turn, right? So there was no way, Hale wasn't able to snipe out a Rare Candy, wasn't able to snipe out an Ultra Ball or a Gardevoir EX, so Abon's got all of those pieces remaining in his deck, because I have to imagine that is going to be a big piece of what he's looking for this turn.
Definitely, and I see them all in the deck there. There is that one Gardevoir prize, but plenty of Ultra Balls and the 2 other Rare Candies in the deck there for Abon. I think another card worth mentioning that Hale plays that we haven't seen other players play is the counter game. Depending on how the prize trade breaks down as this game progresses, the counter game could be the difference maker for Hale to gain access to something like the Mega Kangaskhan or even the Ursaluna to close out the game.
Flip the script being used. There is Rare Candy and Gardevoir found from that. Abon slamming those cards into play. Gardevoir EX has entered the field.
There we go, everything that Abon needed. So this Absol will almost for sure be going down this turn. The question is, what does Abon want to use as the attacker to take the KO? And what else does he want to actually set up this turn? This is the only Gardevoir in play here, although I think once the once the Absol is KO'd, the Pecharunt would be able to return KO the Gardevoir possibly. So establishing another Ralts could be a play Abon looks for. Maybe attack with the Mew EX to KO the Absol using the Claw of Darkness comboed with an Iono. Yeah,
and that may be exactly what Abon is going to go for here. Using Hale's strongest tool against him, sniping a card out of Hale's hand would be really, really good here. Artisan now being used for Abon, searching the deck for a basic Pokemon without a rule box. Maybe a Ralts could be added to the field here. Would like to get another one down just in case this Gardevoir was to go down. But looking at things, I mean, depending on what Abon goes with as an attacker here, if he uses Claw of Darkness, it's probably going to be kind of hard for Hale to piece together a knockout on a Gardevoir.
Yeah, but does opt for that Scream Tail, which means I imagine that will be taking the KO on the Mega Absol. But that does leave the possibility for Hale to remove the only Gardevoir from play if he can find a Darkness Energy and a Boss's Orders. We might see, or actually even Counter Catcher at that point would be online for Hale. So maybe we see Abon not get too aggressive with drawing too many prize cards. Giving the Counter Catcher possibility over to Hale seems like a lot to give him in this situation.
We do see Psychic Embrace used, putting that energy on the Monkey Dory, allowing it to retreat. And now Abon just thinking through how much damage he wants to do. Can he set it up so that this Absol gets KO'd between turns by poison?
That would be pretty powerful. That would take away the potential of the flip the script draw on Hale's side, which I think is what Abon is trying to math out right here. Doesn't want to give extra draw power to potentially draw into the KO on his lone Gardevoir when there's no Ralts on the board. We might see Abon play around that a little bit further and maybe load up some extra Psychic Energy on the Mew EX or even some of the Monkey Dories for a potential Mind Bend or Genome Hacking from the Mew.
And Abon is setting things up so that this Absol will go down between turns. 10 damage moved off of the Monkey Dory with the Adrenabrain. That's 90 HP left on Mega Absol, and then 80 damage from the Roaring Scream. Mega Absol goes down to the poison between turns. Flip the Script is not going to be live for Hale.
Yeah, but if I'm Hale here, I do not hate this situation at all, specifically because we have access to Counter Catcher, which means not just Boss's Orders for Hale will be able to get the KO on the Gardevoir, but also an Arven to find a Counter Catcher will allow this Petron to KO the Gardevoir. Now that Abon has drawn 3 prize cards, he's ahead on the prize cards, Counter Catcher is active, and Petron is doing enough damage to KO the Gardevoir EX.
Yeah, the Kangaskhan could get in there on something like the Mew EX as well. We do see Run Errand drawing 2 cards. There is the Arven. That is the pieces to piece that Counter Catcher play together. Could also grab the counter gain off of this too.
Yeah, the counter gain could come in here. It would be live on the Kangaskhan. Maybe establish that. Bravery Charm, is there? No, the second Bravery Charm made its way onto the Badoo, so we're out of Bravery Charms. But yeah, the counter gain could be a tool you might as well establish for later in the game. And yeah, honestly, this is feeling pretty comfortable for Hale. I do wonder if Abon was too aggressive in that situation. The options, the outs for Hale are just so much higher after that KO was taken.
I'm actually wondering here if Hale wants to use the Kangaskhan now because the counter gain is going to be live and it won't be maybe later on in the game.
Yeah, you might want to take advantage of that while you can. That is true. But is there any threat to the Petron if you KO the Gardevoir?
Yeah, that would be that is true. Oh, well, yeah, with no Ralts in play, that is true, yeah. So taking this Gardevoir out has to probably be lining up as the best move, and that does appear to be what Hale is going for. Counter gain will get played on to this Kangaskhan. It's actually interesting. He is revealing a bit of information there. That's not a super common card. It's not the craziest thing to see played, but Abon maybe didn't know that that counter gain was available. Hale is not using it here. He's putting it into play, but now Abon will have that information moving forward.
Yep, definitely going to be able to utilize that moving forward. And now this puts Abon into quite a tough spot. Could still take a prize card this turn on a Badoo, but with 4 Pokemon on the bench, you can only bench 1 Ralts at a time. So even if Hale, well, I guess if the Badoo got KO'd, the Petron could Gus KO the Pheasantipity for the last 2 prizes, or I guess even the Mew at this point, actually, with the Dark Weakness, would go down to the Petron. So Abon is just hoping Hale can't find Boss at this point.
Artisan used to find that Ralts. Going to put that into play, and yeah, it looks like Abon's probably going to just be crossing the fingers here. Now, if he has Iono, he might feel a little bit safer about this situation, and he does indeed have that in his hand.
Yep,
like another Monkey Dory as well with the Darkness Energy. The Monkey Dory will go down, grabbing 2 more Psychics from the deck. He has a Darkness Energy in hand, though, if he wants to get that into play.
Yep, that will be a big deal. And Abon can still win in 2 turns here. Could KO the Badoo with the Scream Tail. Could maybe set up the Kangaskhan for a 2-hit KO. Definitely a couple of different routes Abon can take here to win the game on the next turn. Of course, it has to come with hoping Hale does not have Boss's Orders because that Mew can be taken out this turn.
Ultra Ball played, not getting any Pokemon out. There's actually none left in the deck. Abon just wanting to get some more energy cards into the discard pile. There's an attachment of the basic Darkness Energy to Monkey Dory. Adrenabrain live for future turns. And I have to imagine that Iono is going to be played here shortly, but not before Counter Catcher will bring something to the active spot.
Yeah, it goes with the Counter Catcher on the Latias. This isn't preventing anything on Hale's side. I think just burning the Counter Catcher, just doesn't want to see it anymore. He thinks his win condition does not involve it. I'm sure he's very aware that he can win on the next turn, but he doesn't think he needs a Counter Catcher to get there. And I think, yeah, maybe a back-to-back Screamtail play with a Brave Charm would be the out.
Flip the script, also still live here for Abon, using that to draw cards. He's got the pieces, Rare Candy Gardevoir in his hand currently through that Ultra Ball that he was able to draw into. And Roaring Scream, 80 damage, does KO that Badoo. Abon takes a prize card down to just 2 remaining. This is going to be very close here, Azul. What does Hale have? It is going to be Pheasantipity's Flip the Script. Does he find Boss's Orders to close out the game?
Not quite. No Boss's Orders found there for Hale. And now this is a pretty tricky situation for sure.
Hale can dig a little bit more for the boss. He can Artisan out an Yveltal, retreat into the Mega Kangaskhan, draw 2 cards, and then use... Oh, no, he can't retreat twice. No, that doesn't work. And that actually also makes this play here from Abon, bringing up the Latias a little more awkward, right? I guess it was always going to be kind of difficult here for Hale to use the Mega Kangaskhan to draw cards.
Yeah, that's why I was debating whether or not the Counter Catcher was worth it. I think the reason to Counter Catcher there is just because you know you don't need it to win the game anymore. So Hale is thinking this one through, trying to come up with a play here. It is looking pretty tough for Hale, to be honest. You're hoping for the boss there, and that's like another reason Abon maybe didn't want to KO the Badoo, to not give the potential of the draw power from the Pheasantipity. Of course, Hale having the Fez there was kind of fortunate. Hale only does play the 2 Nest Balls, I believe, like the other Mega Absol Kangaskhan players alongside the Pheasantipity.
Here's the potential line.
All right, go for it.
Hale can draw into Energy Switch Boss. And if he has Energy Switch Boss, he can Mega Kangaskhan to KO the Mew EX.
Yeah, you retreat to the Mega Kangaskhan. It needs to find you. And I think the Energy Switch is on the bottom of the deck, maybe. So we would have to shuffle, but it's still possible.
Yeah.
Do you go for that? What about going for Badoo, though? That's one thought that I had here. You maybe the 10 damage on the Screamtail actually might put you over, and you would just lose to Screamtail plus Monkey. Actually...
Yeah, because the Monkey Dory can KO the Badoo, Screamtail.
Can't quite KO the Monkey Dory on the bench. That would actually buy Hale a turn.
Also, Hale has not used any Lively Stadium, another piece that would increase the HP of both the Badoo and the Monkey Dory.
And it's in the hand.
Yeah, so that would actually also mean that even Adrenabrain could not KO the Badoo.
Yeah, and Hale's thinking about the Badoo there. Honestly, I kind of like this Badoo play to just buy a turn. Of course, you are still hoping for a top deck, but with how few cards Abon has left in deck, I'm pretty confident a Gardevoir is going to get candied out next turn. And there it is.
Wow, Itchy Pollen being used. That means that Rare Candy Gardevoir is not live. We see those 2 cards are in the hand for Abon.
And now this makes things really awkward here for Abon. You almost just can't attack this turn because of the threat of the Adrenabrain from the other side. Here comes a Turo.
Professor Turo scenario, not a card we see in Gardevoir decks very often these days anymore, and Abon just wants to clear all of his liabilities out of play. Gets that Mew EX up out of the board, is going to use Bravery Charm to boost the HP of Pheasantipity EX up to 260, so that is out of range.
Yeah, so that's what I think Hale was afraid of by discarding the previous Bravery Charm, but Abon does play 2. Now is thinking about attacking with the Screamtail, and does.
Wow.
But this will give damage over to Hale to potentially KO the Screamtail with Itchy Pollen.
Yeah, could have actually KO'd this Pokemon as well if he had used Adrenabrain, but chose not to use Adrenabrain.
Yeah, and we did see the Penny top deck here from Hale. I think there's a Dark Energy in the discard for the Night Stretcher maybe anyways, though. The Itchy Pollen KO here on the Screamtail is huge. I feel like this is a pretty big mistake from Abon, allowing the KO to come through from an Itchy Pollen almost like lines Hale up.
Hale's just piecing everything together here. Is going to retreat into the Mega Kangaskhan EX. Is going to use Run Errand to draw a couple cards. Turbo Energize Lily's Determination. And Penny maybe picking up the Kangaskhan in order to get back into Badoo?
I assume this would be to pick up the Monkey Dory at this point from Hale.
And then he can just KO this Screamtail with the Kangaskhan EX.
If there's an energy in the discard pile, which there should be for the Night Stretcher, yeah, I think that would be possible. And it looks like that is the route here from Hale, picking up the Monkey Dory. This does mean that Abaan will need a big attack to KO the Fez or the Latias, the Fezandipiti, or the Pecharunt. There's a lot of 2-prizers on the bench, I guess. And there's no Bravery Charm left, I guess, right? That's the second Bravery Charm, so Screamtail can't quite do as much damage as it normally can to the bench Pokemon.
Night Stretcher being used for Hale. Is going to try to get an energy. Yes, indeed. It will be a Darkness Energy added to the hand. And let's see. Yeah, probably just this attachment to the Mega Kangaskhan. Going to just burn a couple cards here. Turbo Energize onto the Fezandipiti EX.
Still doing some math here. Maybe we see the Lively Stadium come down. This will further increase the HP of the Pecharunt, the Fez, and the Latias. I guess the Pecharunt's the lowest HP of the three, so that's the only important one. And I think that does make sense here. It might make the math a little bit different for Abaan.
Is he passing? He's going to pass, and Abaan playing quickly, draws for turn, Rare Candy into the Gardevoir EX, and is going to just boost the damage output of the Screamtail. And I think he's going to just go after the Pecharunt EX here to close out this game. Roaring Scream able to get the KO. Hale Obernolte with the pass there leads to Abaan just winning.
Yeah, and I think it all comes down to that turn from Hale had the potential of the Monkey Dory Badoo play to KO the Screamtail. What would you even do there as Abaan? You can't candy out Gardevoir. You have a Monkey Dory with 30 damage. And the Monkey Dory, as Hale there, you could have even picked your Monkey Dory up at a play. As well with the Penny, you could have stretched her for the energy attached to Monkey Dory.
Right.
Penny it up.
Penny it up, and then you can threaten it again on the next turn, right? Yeah, that was lining up pretty nicely. I wonder if he was worried about his resources remaining, possibly, like energy attachments, but he was going to get the energy back to his hand with the Penny. Yeah, let's recap that game. That was a super interesting situation there at the end of that one, Azul.
Yeah, definitely a lot to think about there, but it started off with Hale chasing down that Kirlia and limiting Abaan's access to Gardevoir, and that was kind of what happened throughout the whole game, to be honest. We did see Abaan Turbo Energize into the Enamorus and then eventually get a Gardevoir online, but then Hale dealt with that Gardevoir, leaving Abaan in that end state.
Abaan smartly on this turn, able to KO the Mega Absol in between turns with the poison, not proccing anything like the Fezandipiti, and Kangaskhan continuing to draw here for Hale, setting up for the Pecharunt to get a knockout on Gardevoir EX, leaving him with just 2 prize cards remaining, but from this position, he wasn't able to close it out.
Yeah, not quite able to close it out. It was definitely a lot of back and forth. It never felt like super comfortable for one player or the other. And then, yeah, the lack of the Monkey Dory Badoo play from Hale at the end gave the Candy Gardevoir to Abaan and was able to close that first game out. But we're not done yet. Game 2 coming up. And I'm actually interested to see how Hale plays this. I assume Hale chose second here. And then the question will be, does he favor the Turbo Energize or the Badoo if he has the option?
Yeah, we'll see what he decides to go with. We are getting right into things here. 43 minutes remaining. Abaan is going to kick off his turn, starting a Monkey Dory and immediately playing Earthen Vessel. Of course, going to take a moment to check his prize cards, see what he's got available, see what he does not. There's nothing too bad in his prizes. Looks like a couple of Ultra Ball, which could maybe be a little problematic. You know, one of the big pieces for Gardevoir is getting Psychic Energy into the discard pile, and Ultra Ball is one of the main ways to make that happen.
Yeah, also the main way to find the Gardevoir EX. But we saw in that last game, it's not that important when you got those Turbo Energizes to the Enamorus there. One of those is prize as well, but one is all you need to set up an Enamorus. Doesn't cost that much. Yeah, we'll see how much Abaan can get established here. Probably wants a Ralt, start to develop that. After that last game, a manual attached to an Enamorus doesn't seem bad either, but probably wants to try and get Gardevoir online and keep it online a little bit more consistently than what we saw.
Abaan just taking stock, still figuring it all out. Do you think as we move into this game, you want to see any sort of adjustments from either of these players based on what they did in the first one?
I don't think so. I think both players had a pretty good idea of their win conditions. The game feels so weird on the Absol side, though, because you get the initial Absol set up, and it feels like it feels almost fragile. Like there's so much pressure on that one Absol to not go the distance, but do a lot of work, and then sometimes you just don't get the reinforcements set up in time to close out the game. It kind of felt like that's what we saw a little bit in that first game.
Ultra Ball from Abaan immediately finds the Fezandipiti EX to put into play. Artisan will grab out a Ralts. What do you think of the early Fezandipiti bench?
It definitely is interesting. I feel like we've seen that a lot against this deck, and I think it mostly is because the Absol deck doesn't have a consistent way to one-hit KO the Fezandipiti. You want to go into Absol, Absol does 200 damage. You can poison it with the Pecharunt EX, but that means you have to wait a turn to get access to that that damage to utilize with your Monkey Dory.
And Abon playing all of his item cards as well before he gets item locked. Also another piece as well. Maybe he wants to make sure he's got a darkness Pokemon in play so that his Enamorus can be activated, right?
Yeah, definitely got to get the Enamorus online. It was the MVP of that first game, so you want to give it the ability to carry you once again. Yeah, I guess getting the items just played in general definitely makes sense. The threat of the Badoo, but I feel like that's probably not the route that Hale wants to go. I think just because Hale opened Badoo in the first game, that's the route he chose.
Looking at the prizes here for Hale, that Latias EX is a huge piece of this deck.
Yeah, that's a big part of the mobility for the constant draw power from the Kangaskhan, retreating your Dark Pokemon to the bench into the Kangaskhan, drawing 2 cards with its ability, and then using the Petron EX to force, most likely, your Absol back into the active. Not going to be able to do that with the Latias prize. Is only going to be able to force the Dark Pokemon into the active with the Petron.
Yeah, up at the top of his prizes as well, so it's not even something that can become a factor in the middle of the game, more than likely. Also a Penny, Lily's Determination, and Arven being prized. Also Boss's Orders, so 4 different supporters there for Hale. Not too big of a deal, though. He plays multiples of all of these cards. The big question is going to be here, does Hale have access to that precious trolley?
Of course. This time, he got the memo. He opened it in the hand. No Arven needed as the trolley is coming down.
Here it is, searching the deck for as many basic Pokemon as Hale would like. Of course, up to the limit of 5, putting them directly into play. Little quick update from the floor. Jackson, Ford, and Rowan Stavino are actually in Game 3 currently. So that means each one of them has won a game, and still trying to decide who's going to be making it to the finals on that side of the bracket.
With this Latias being prized as well, Hale doesn't have the option of the Badoo. I guess you could still get like Yveltal and Petron and Badoo, but the Yveltal and the Badoo are 2 Pokemon you do not want in play. So I think even if Hale really wanted to item lock in this matchup, it would have to be through the Latias. So I don't think we're going to see Badoo this game.
So that means Turbo Energize is probably going to be Hale's play here if he can find it early on. And we do just see 4 Darkness Pokemon being brought into play. Absol, Petrunt, and Yveltal.
Yeah, it gets the Yveltal there. The Yveltal is kind of cool because it'll allow you to access your mobility through Petrunt pushing the Yveltal in the active, and Yveltal does have no retreat cost, so then you can retreat it into your Absols without actually poisoning your Absols.
Artisan is going to be used now for Hale. Pretty interesting that he didn't bring down the Badoo from Precious Trolley, choosing to wait for Artisan.
Want to maximize the actions. Gotta keep the actions maximized. I guess there is a way to get into the Badoo here, but it is through the Yveltal coming to the bench. Yeah.
And that's exactly what he is probably going for here. Petrunt subjugating chains, pushes that Yveltal to the active spot. With its free retreat, it can move directly back into the Badoo, and Itchy Pollen will be used. Now over to Abon, who found his one of Kirlia again. 2 games in a row. Abon finds his one of Kirlia under item lock.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. And it looks like Hale actually does prefer the item lock in this matchup, is honing in on that as being the opening strategy. Not concerned with using the Turbo Energize, which you saw in the last game. It wasn't his downfall, but it meant it was harder to get into Monkey Dories, harder to find your follow-up attacker as well. And that'll probably be the case as we get into the mid-late game here. Once his first Absol comes down, you're going to have less energy developed on your board to be able to respond to Abon's late-game threats.
A bunch of cards being drawn here for Abon. Not much else really to work with. He's going to use Artisan. Have to imagine another Ralts is going to come down. He wants to avoid the situation that he found himself in game number 1, where Hale was able to keep the Gardevoir out of play in the early game. Even though it did work out nicely for Abon, he did end up winning, it still was a little annoying for him to deal with.
Yeah, it did work out in the end, but not something you'd like to have the option of Gardevoir. Even if you just have a Ralts in play for the next turn, having the option to candy the Gardevoir and then choosing not to is different than just never having the option to begin with. So at least we have the option now.
Abon will pass things over to Hale. Hale is going to kick off his turn. Has plenty of energy cards in hand. Is going to start to load up that Mega Absol. See what else he has. Can not really do much else as far as drawing with the Mega Kangaskhan or anything like that. No, Latias really limits his options there. It's going to be left to whatever supporter card he has that he wants to play.
I think his hand is just energy and pennies. I think it's all it is.
And that is signified by the attack here with Itchy Pollen, just 10 more damage. And Abon goes for the Lily's Determination.
Yep, 8 new cards here. could draw into the guard 4. There's 3 Psychic Energy in the discard pile, and does have access to Artisan, so we could see Abaan initiate with the Screamtail here, or even, well, you probably don't want to use a Namorous to KO a Badoo, but you could use the Adrenabrain from Monkey Dory, and then whatever gets promoted could take a hit from an Namorous. So if Abaan draws guard 4 here, the options that are limitless.
A bunch of cards being found, but Gardevoir EX is not one of them. However, Technical Machine Turbo Energize is added to the arsenal for Abaan, so he can load something up, and it does look like Enamorous is going to be that choice right away. I will say it is funny. It does work out nicely for Abaan that he got the Pheasantipity in play because Hale did not put a Psychic Pokemon down.
Yeah, it's working out pretty well here. The Enamorous, he's going to get some more energy from the Turbo Energize coming up. And yeah, the MVP has returned for a second game. And honestly, this board state from Abaan, it's looking pretty good. And this is looking pretty similar to how the first game played out, except for the lack of Monkey Dory access from Hale.
I have to imagine that there are going to be lots of Gardevoir players who are going to their local card shops and digging through bulk boxes for this Enamorous in the coming weeks. Hale is going to just attach a Darkness Energy to his Mega Absol, trying to get 2 threats established here before he starts attacking.
Yeah, interesting. Continuing to load up energy. Could have attacked with the Claw of Darkness, opting not to, and really wants Abaan to go through this Badoo and trying to just limit the access to Gardevoir, I assume here, is what Hale's playing towards. I think maybe Hale has a counter catcher in hand and is looking to maybe like counter catcher Fez, hit it for 200, and then start to pick away at Abaan's resources in hand, leading to hopefully no Gardevoir.
I mean, and he knows that Abaan did not draw Gardevoir EX because he would have put it in play, right? So Hale, off those 8 cards from Abaan's Lily's Determination, has figured that there's probably an item card that gets him Gardevoir, but there's not the Gardevoir EX itself, so happy to play it slow like this. It does look like Abaan will play Iono. So it's going to be 6 cards closer to him finding Gardevoir EX. Have to imagine he'll see it at some point, surely, right?
It's got to be coming up soon, if not right now, maybe on the following turn. Abaan has a pretty strong option here, though. Can use the Monkey Dory to KO the Badoo with the Adrenabrain, and then could promote a Namorous to knock out whatever Hale promotes, but it would be the Yveltal probably, which honestly isn't that great of a KO for Abaan. Taking 2 one-prize KOs isn't great for the prize trade if Hale doesn't bench any more one-prize Pokemon. So I actually don't dislike this play from Abaan, just retreating to the Ralts and passing, waiting for a more powerful turn before drawing prize cards.
Yeah, this is the Pokemon that Abaan is most willing to let potentially go down. Happy to push that up, wants to protect that Monkey Dory with the Darkness Energy on the bench. Hale will draw for turn and attaches the Darkness Energy to Mega Absol. Both of those Pokemon now just a single attachment away from getting things rolling, and Hale off of Abaan's Iono, able to find Lily's Determination. A slow game here, Azul. It's been going for about 17 minutes, and no one has announced a damaging attack, I guess, besides Itchy Pollen. But that barely counts.
Definitely. And I definitely still favor Abaan for the situation. It could get interesting, though, as Hale starts to find the Bravery Charms, and with an Artisan already played from Abaan, could get the edge in the back and forth of the Stadium War and win it out with the Lively Stadiums. And if you can penny up some of these other Pokemon in play and just leave the board side with maybe just 2 Absols, it could be hard for Abaan to actually close out the game.
And finally, Abaan is able to find Gardevoir EX. The question now is going to be, what will he do with this piece now available? Is now the time for him to pounce? Will we see that Adrenabrain take out the Badoo and target down something that Hale chooses to promote?
Yeah, we could see that. The Screamtail is available as well with the Artisan in play. Also, Collect with Ralts is pretty powerful here. Just get more cards. If Hale wants to pass, maybe Abaan wants to pass, but nope, there's the Gardevoir, so I think we're going to get cooking here.
Yeah, if the Gardevoir EX is coming into play for Abaan, that means that he is ready to do something this turn, but not before Lily's Determination will be used as the supporter card, shuffling the hand in to draw 8. If he plans to knock out Badoo with Adrenabrain, very wise to play this Lily's Determination first, so he'll get 8 cards as opposed to 6.
Yes, and I completely forgot about this card because nobody plays this in Guard 4. I mentioned the Yveltal. Getting a KO on the Yveltal isn't very good, but Abaan does play that Iron Bundle, which means if the Adrenabrain KOs the Badoo, Hale's going to promote the Yveltal. But then Artisan could find Iron Bundle, promoting one of the much higher value targets on the bench.
Yeah, is that Iron Bundle in the deck? I did see it hit the discard pile at some point. It may have been in the previous game, though, and it actually, with a quick fan of the discard pile, does not look like it's in the discard pile, so Abaan should have access to it. No Pokemon in his discard pile currently.
Even better, I think it's in his hand, ready to go, so he could use it and then use Artisan after, but it's actually initiating with the Artisan first here, and it's just going for the Screamtail as well. This still seems pretty good. Just starting to load up damage on some of those bigger Pokemon on the bench, ignoring the Badoo completely. Like I said, you don't really want to ever KO Badoo unless it's with Adrenabrain.
He can KO Petron EX here if he wants to, right?
Yeah.
He can retreat the Ralts into this Screamtail. He can use Adrenabrain to move 30 damage from the Monkey Dory over to the Petron EX, and then Roaring Scream deals 160 damage plus the 30 from Adrenabrain. That is 190. That is a knockout on Petron EX.
Yeah, and with no damage on the field for Hale built up at all, this means there's no potential for Adrenabrain to KO the Screamtail on the next turn. We could see an Itchy Pollen KO the Screamtail, but for the way the prize trade's going already, I don't think Abon would be too mad at that.
Yeah, Abon's board is very nicely set up. He's got Gardevoir EX. He's got that Enamorus as a potential threat. Didn't think I'd say that sentence, but here we are. The ability for Hale to get a knockout with Item Lock is strong, but will it even matter?
Yeah, that is going to be the question here. And now that Abon is down to 4 prize cards, getting the KO on the Badoo, going down to 3 means all you need to do is KO a Mega Pokemon from there. If Hale could get the Badoo and the Yveltal out of play over these next couple turns, that would mean Abon needs to KO 2 Mega Pokemon to close out the game. But I don't know if that's going to be a possibility here for Hale. I do see 1 penny in hand, though.
Yeah, 1 penny on the Yveltal here into a penny on the Badoo next turn. I think actually he probably would have to penny the Badoo here, right?
Yeah, then hope the Yveltal can't be picked off the bench.
Yeah.
Which is possible. The Screamtail would be in the discard pile, so maybe that's the route we see Hale take.
And he would be sniping a card from Abon's hand as well, so could get rid of something like a Night Stretcher, Super Rod, one of those pieces.
Yeah, but plenty of threats, like you mentioned as well, on Abon's side. The Enamorus, a threat, a big threat here, honestly. Anything that threatens a 2-hit KO on a Mega Pokemon at this point in this game, in this matchup in general, it's just pretty good, especially if it's a 1-prize Pokemon.
Hale is going to use Artisan here. Does look like he is debating a Monkey Dory. What do you think?
Well, with no damage on your side of the field, it would just be preemptive for the future. It's not going to get value out of it right now. And it does become another 1-prize Pokemon in play. So this definitely, Hale is no longer trying to get all the 1-prize Pokemon off the board. We're going to be conceding one of those over to Abon at some point. The question is, how much value can we get of our Absols at this point? I feel like Hale needs to get some really, really big snipes with the Claw of Darkness.
It's going to be the big factor here. Boss's Orders is used for Hale. He can bring up one of these benched Pokemon to the active spot. Does look like Gardevoir EX will be the choice. Perhaps Hale can limit Abon's access to another Gardevoir, but I will say even with Gardevoir going down, I mean, that Screamtail is already set up. The Enamorus is already set up. I don't even know if Abon would want to put another Gardevoir in play if he could.
Yeah, you definitely don't need it for a couple turns. Even going into a Mind Bend a turn or 2 from now wouldn't be terrible. Now, the threat... Oh, this is interesting, though.
This is really interesting. So Abon has put a bunch of his energy cards into play, and so this Gardevoir won't be able to attack into Yveltal, but let's not forget here, Azul, that Abon plays Professor Turo's Scenario.
Does play the Turo. Yeah, there is 7 Psychics. This is a good catch here from Hale. There is 7 Psychic Energy in play. Abon does play 8, but Gardevoir needs 2 Psychic Energy to attack. So the Turo is the only out here for Abon at this point to move the Gardevoir or to get use out of it. Can't attack with it. And the Monkey Dory on the bench there from Hale means you can ping the damage back and forth between each other, but Abon's going to get aggressive and get that prize card.
He's going to take that prize card, maybe hoping for the Darkness Energy. Is left behind, though. Turbo Energize was the one taken. Got a lot of cards to work with here in the hand, and it is going to be a pass from Abon. He does not have Professor Turo. Hale has successfully bought himself a turn. What is he going to do with it now?
This makes it a little bit more interesting as well, because now Abon has given a bench space over to Hale to potentially set up another Monkey Dory. I guess in this situation, 1 Monkey Dory for 1 Monkey Dory. Hale comes out on top because you are doing 40 damage with the Yveltal, so you don't need that. But you did give the bench space to Hale, and he looks like he's going to immediately take advantage of it with the Petron EX.
Petron TX added to the hand from Night Stretcher. Have to imagine that means it will likely be benched. Sure enough, it comes into play. Can be a very strong attacker later on in the game. Irritated Outburst. But in this position, it's going to be used to provide some draw support. Hale able to retreat with Yveltal into the Mega Kangaskhan using Run Errands to draw 2 cards. And then now that Petron EX's Subjugating Chains can push the Yveltal back into the active spot.
Yeah, the way this is developing is actually really interesting for Hale. When you do activate the Subjugating Chains, it does poison the Dark Pokemon you push to the active, which means if Abon is going to constantly be pushing the damage back over to Hale's side after the clutches from the Yveltal, then Hale could penny the Absol with the 1 energy out of play to set up a second Monkey Dory to gain a massive edge in the damage back and forth here. So I actually wonder if from Abaan here, you actually don't use Adrenaline Brain, and but then the damage is being generated from the poison. This is actually kind of tough. Maybe this was an overextension from Abaan with this Screamtail play. Maybe didn't fully think through, wait, what if clutch happens?
The clutch, always a looming threat, and it has caught many players off guard in the past. And it may pay off here for Hale. He's needing to find a way to fight back down a game here in top 4, still fighting for an opportunity to become our champion. And it has been successful for one more turn pass from Abaan.
Yeah, so if Abaan uses Adrenaline Brain here, it would actually just lead to more damage access for Hale through a penny, like I mentioned, on that other Mega Absol. So Abaan smartly here, not using Adrenaline Brain, just wants to draw Turo or let Hale actually KO this Gardevoir EX sooner than later to regain access to his attackers.
Do you see Penny in the hand here for Hale? Thinking through his options, is going to use Subjugating Chains though, re-poisons that Yveltal after it retreated on the previous turn. And the Penny will be used now to pick up that Mega Absol, get access to one of these Darkness Energy, and yes, Monkey Dory can use Adrenaline Brain now for Hale.
Yeah, probably going to start to move this damage to the... Oh, not going to move the damage, actually. Just going to go ahead and clutch once again. I thought we'd maybe see it get moved to the Ralts there, but this also works as building up for the following turn. A real problem here also for Abaan is if you use the Turo on the Gardevoir EX, that means you don't have Turo for your Fez. And sure, the Fezandipity can attack, but that's like another 3 turns, and potentially you might not still have enough energy to do that.
There's too many energy cards in play for Abaan to ever attack with the Fezandipity, I think, at this point.
Yeah, it would have to be a combination of like Turo. You could, how much retreat cost does the Enamorous have? Is it 1 or 2? You could get a couple off the Enamorous.
It does have 1 retreat.
And then you have to super rod them back into the deck and then draw into them and load them up on the Fez. And it's possible Hale will just draw too many prize cards in that time period.
So Abaan has Secret Box in hand. That means he has access to Professor Turo's scenario if he wants it right now.
Yeah, we might just see him go for it here. And now the Petron EX is back on the board. Abaan can go for a 1-prize knockout into a 2-prize knockout. And we could see the Screamtail to KO the Yveltal here. I guess Enamorous KO Yveltal. You just want to remove that damage from play so the Monkey Dory can't utilize it to get like basically a free prize card on the Screamtail later on.
Secret Box searching the deck for a supporter card, a stadium card, item, and tool card, adding them to the hand here for Abaan. Professor Turo scenario eyed as an option immediately.
Yeah.
Abaan maybe just even taking stock of the resources. What does he have left? It looks like Earthen Vessel will be one of the choices as well here.
Yeah, it does have quite a bit. No Claw of Darkness have picked anything apart. Abaan's been able to pretty casually set up the board, not under too much pressure, of course. Hale is on 0 prize cards as well. And KO the Yveltal as well could be the most beneficial knockout for Abaan because it means it would be hard for Hale to potentially get into a clutch on the Fezandipity on the next turn.
Professor Turo scenario looks like it will be played here.
Oh, I guess you could just Turo up the Screamtail, and then that would gain your energy again for the Gardevoir to retreat. So we don't have to Turo the Gardevoir.
Right.
We just need to reset our energy back to the discard pile.
And sending those energies to the discard pile could be nice as well because that means that Abaan could have access to them through Super Rod, something like that, so that he could technically attack with the Fezandipity EX.
Yeah, so that does become still a liability for the clutches, the Fez does. But as long as Abaan leaves enough energy in the discard pile, the Super Rod would recover them.
And he does have a Darkness Energy in the deck still.
Yeah.
But he does have a Darkness Energy in his prize card. So that is a piece of this puzzle here where I think Abaan needs access to all of those cards, and he is running the risk of that last energy staying in the prizes after he takes a KO, I assume, on the Yveltal this turn.
Yeah, we'll see how the rest of this turn plays out. If any more energy get left into play, and how much of a liability that Fezandipity becomes. It's also possible we see Hale bounce around for a little bit. Maybe you clutch the Fez for a couple turns, and then you let Abaan attach to it twice, and then maybe you go clutch the Gardevoir again and just bounce around up into the point where Abaan can't attack with something, and then you could close out the game with some kind of Monkey Dory plus clutch game plan. So it's definitely still available there to Hale, but Abaan has freed up the energy for this turn, isn't in threat of clutch closing out the game or anything like that, and will be able to pull off a KO this turn.
Psychic Embrace attaches 2 energy from the discard pile. That's 40 more damage onto Gardevoir EX. Of course, Adrenaline Brain could heal some of that if Abaan would like. Probably wouldn't mind just taking it off and putting it onto the active, not giving Hale any damage to work with, I should say. But then also at the same time healing his Gardevoir EX. don't think it'll matter too much because I have to imagine that a Claw of Darkness is incoming to KO this Gardevoir, but for now, Abon will take a prize card. Hale promotes that Kangaskhan EX.
Yeah, Kangaskhan is up. The Absol is available. Like I said, Clutch could still be a possibility on that Pheasantipity, but plenty of Psychic Energy in the discard pile. So you don't really want to go after the Monkey Dory. The Enamorus is already set up, and that Ralts could be candied into a Gardevoir EX still, which would also be able to attack.
Yep, easy access to the Yveltal through the Artisan if he'd like to do it, and that does look like the move for Hale here. Have to imagine it will come into play short enough. Yveltal brought out, and Run Errand could find him potentially a couple more cards. He's got a few ways to gust in this spot. He is behind on prize cards, so Counter Catcher is live. Of course, Boss's Orders is the most straightforward way to do it. He will Run Errand for a couple. Subjugating Chains pushes this Yveltal into the active spot. There's the Darkness Energy, and it does seem like a Clutch is incoming. Boss's Orders will be used on that Pheasantipity EX.
Yep, and there's the Clutch. It is doing damage, so the Pheasantipity will get KO'd eventually, and we're probably not going to see Abon, once again, Adrena Brain damage back over to the other side. Although, now with 2 Monkey Dory, the access to 2 Monkey Dory, Abon could start pushing that damage to the other side. But Hale might be able to match the 2 Monkey Dory with 2 Monkey Dory, meaning Hale would come out on top because of the 20 damage from the Clutch and would be generating damage on Abon's side of the field.
Yes, Abon does have access to another Monkey Dory. He did take that 3rd Darkness Energy off of his prize cards last turn, and he will go with Iono here, sending Hale's hand to the bottom, also Abon's own hand. Abon will only get 2. Hale's still getting the full 6, so I have to wonder how disruptive this even is.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, Abon is way ahead on the prize cards here. We could see that being a win condition. We could see that being a win condition for Hale in the late game. The Absol is still set up. Iono plus Claw of Darkness is still a possibility to make a comeback. Of course, there's a lot of threats set up on Abon's side of the field, though.
Going to be about just how much damage gets generated into play, and as you mentioned, through the use of the double Adrena Brain, if Hale can pull it off.
There's the Artisan
It will
use.
lead to them being matched aside from the Clutch damage from Yveltal, so Hale comes out on top in that trade.
Yeah, we did see the Artisan use there from Hale. It looks like he was looking for the Monkey Dory, but he discarded one of his Monkey Dories on turn 1 with a Vessel. So if there's not a Night Stretcher and a Dark Energy to recover it and attach to it, then Hale might not be able to match the Monkey Dories here.
Yeah, Monkey Dory sure enough in the discard pile. If he's got Arven, he could use Night Stretcher to find it. So that is a way to get it back, but he also does need the energy card. Night Stretcher in the discard pile. He does play 2 copies, and the other one is prized Azul. So he actually does not have a way to get the second Monkey Dory into play.
Yeah, with no access to the second Monkey Dory, that leaves Abon in the advantage in this trade-off, which means Hale's going to have to come up with something else here. And honestly, I don't know what that is right now for Hale. Things are looking pretty bleak.
He's got the ability to bide a little bit of time, but he won't be able to do it forever. He's going to have to try to piece something else together here. Going to start with that Penny on the Yveltal. That's a nice way to get a bunch of damage out of play. Just pick that Pokemon up, add it all to the hand, pushing the Mega Kangaskhan. Attachment for turn to the Petron EX.
Yeah, and honestly, because of the Iono last turn, Abon is kind of helping Hale out here due to Hale being in this position. Hale did not have a way to get that 1 prize liability out of play, and Iono Abon, but Abon played Iono last turn. This does mean the Fez will be sticking around for its Flip the Script draw power, but this is giving Hale maybe his only line of play available.
He's going to send up this Mega Absol through Subjugating Chains and is going to snipe one of these cards from hand with the Claw of Darkness, getting rid of the Iono, taking 2 prize cards. Abon happy to promote the Enamorus. Let's see what else he has.
Yeah, I don't think Abon is too mad at that, to be honest. The Iono would have only netted him like +2 cards. So as far as cards that could have been available, I think you're okay with those going. The Vessel comes down here, finds no energy, does have plenty of recovery left, and then we'll have the Flips the Script. And even if Abon finds nothing else this turn, the Enamorus hitting the Mega Absol is almost enough pressure from Abon.
Then Hale with the preemptive attachment of the energy to this Petron EX. Perhaps that's his plan. You know, penny this Absol, attack with the Petrons, and then look to close things out with one more Petron attack, hoping that Abon cannot close out the game on his next turn.
Yeah, that could be the route, but as long as Abon doesn't put any more I say that, but there's the Mew EX. Back-to-back 2 prizes are on board.
Yeah, and that is something that's coming into play here for Abon. He's already used his Turo, so he won't be able to clear one of those liabilities out. He is going to use the Adrenabrain, putting that extra damage onto this Absol, just trying to get as much damage onto this Pokemon as he possibly can. He's going to hit it for 200 here. It'll take 10 more from the poison as well.
Yeah, the damage is starting to get loaded up here on the Absol. A little bit bigger with that lively stadium. I wonder if Hale just knocking out this Enamorus and then hoping Abaan doesn't have Candy Gardevoir would be enough to stabilize for him here. We're looking at
230 damage on it.
230 damage. The Mind Bend isn't 100% available to Abaan because there's no Psychics left in the deck. They're all in the discard pile. Would have to find some recovery.
Yeah, Super Rod, Night Stretcher, both options. Yeah, 5 Psychic Energies down. Hale here with a bunch of cards to work with, but which ones of them lead to him winning? He's pulled Lily's Determination to the front of his hand.
Yeah, you mentioned that Penny play that would give access to the Dark Energy for the Petro. I guess it does still have the Monkey Dory established as well, so that does heal 30 more off the active Absol, actually.
How many Penny has Hale played at this point in the game? He does play 4 copies in his list. One of them is actually prized, and he has played 2, so that means he only has 1 Penny still available for the rest of this game, Azul.
Yeah, only 1 Penny left. And I think it might be coming down as we see this Arven come down. Does have a Bravery Charm left as well, though. The Absol is going to get a little bit more health to work with. It is going to come down to, I think, can Abaan find that Candy Gardevoir in these coming turns? This turn, Hale is going to be able to remove the Enamorus from play, the only real threat on Abaan's board. If Abaan can't find Candy Gardevoir next turn, that is when Hale will have the opportunity to start to pick apart the draw power, go after the Fez or the Mew, and then limit Abaan's access to the Candy Gardevoir.
Here comes the energy to the Petron EX, setting that Pokemon up as an option. There's the Bravery Charm to this Absol, giving it a little bit more survivability potentially. And it is going to be the attack, and Abaan will have to discard Rare Candy alongside the Enamorus going down. Abaan promotes the Mew EX. Hale down to 3 prize cards. He's finding a way to fight back in this game. Abaan pushes the Mew EX with that free retreat, provides a pivot.
Yeah, just barely sticking in it. The Candy Gardevoir will give Abaan the game. If Abaan could just find a Night Stretcher as well, the Mind Bend would be maybe annoying. I guess you got the Petra on the back line, though, so Hale could just retreat into that. We are seeing the resources getting recovered now finally from Abaan.
Putting back just the Darkness energy from this Super Rod, adding that into the deck. Abaan does have the ability to use Restart here, the ability to use Flip the Script. He can draw quite a few cards. He's also got Screamtail, Darkness Energy, or the Bravery Charm. He's going to put those down. There's the Gardevoir. He needs Rare Candy here, Azul. Does he find it? No.
Not quite. And now there's just a lone Ralt on the bench. I can't believe it, but Hale might be making the comeback here. Similar to the first game, struggled to keep the Gardevoirs in play, and as we're getting to the end game here, is unable to establish a Gardevoir. No Gardevoir means no threats if you don't have the Enamorus.
He does have Night Stretcher, Abaan, so he can get back the Curlia, set up for a Gardevoir on the next turn, but the next turn might not be enough.
Yeah, it might not. This could also get a Psychic Energy and go for a Mind Bend to stop the potential of the Claw of Darkness, but is settling for the Curlia there. That means a Claw of Darkness could come through and discard another important card from the hand.
I think we just did a little bit of damage fixing there on the Mega Absol. Should all be correct. And Abaan has to retreat here. It looks like it will be into Monkey Dory and simply passes the turn back over to Hale. What can he do? Does he have Boss?
He does. He has the boss's orders, the Lone Curlia, and the way to establish threats here from Abaan can be KO'd. And if Hale just finds a follow-up Gust effect, Hale will be able to close out this game with back-to-back KOs.
Wow, what a turn of events here. Hale has found a way to sneak back in. Clutching for a couple of turns may come in clutch here for Hale Obernolte to push himself into a Game 3. Blood Moon Ursaluna is hitting the field. That'll be a way for Hale to potentially close out the game immediately on something like Pheasantipity with a bunch of extra HP thanks to the lively stadium. And Boss's orders is going to be used to bring up the Curlia.
Wow.
You're going to see Claw of Darkness takes the KO and a card discarded from hand. At this point, I don't even know if any of these are going to help Abaan. Maybe the Bravery Charm is the strongest option to discard for Hale.
I still think I like the Ralt. The only lose condition here for Hale is a Gardevoir getting established. I guess maybe the Gardevoir makes more sense. I don't know exactly what's remaining.
Does the Bravery Charm take the Pheasantipity out of range of Ursaluna KOing it next turn?
Well, we always have the Mew available. And
oh, yes.
Yeah, Hale will need 2 prize cards, so I think we're okay with...
Yep.
Maybe in the future that would make a difference. Goes for the Ralts, though. Removes that from play.
Wow.
Now I don't even know if Abon can even set up a guard for. How much recovery do we have left?
Yeah, he used the Night Stretcher last turn. That was his main way to find another one. He's going to use the Flip the Script, drawing 3. There is Rare Candy, but it is 1 turn too late.
And there's the Rare Candy, the Gardevoir, but now needs a Ralts, and Hale just dealt with the Ralts. There's an Arven and an Iono in hand, but with how big of a hand Hale has and how long he's been sitting on this, I'd be kind of scared that there'd be another boss's orders in that hand.
Yeah, and that is what Abon is going to go with. The Iono sending the player's hands to the bottom. Worth noting here, Hale has prized a boss's orders. He does play the full 4 copies, and he's got 3 in the discard pile, Azul. And he doesn't have access to Counter Catcher.
Yeah, but I don't think Abon has access to Ralts.
Just has to push this Monkey Dory and pass, and that may be enough here for Hale to just get himself far enough ahead.
Yeah.
2-2 on the prize trade at this time. 10 minutes left in the round, Azul.
That is another big concern here. Time is coming up, and I think less time probably does favor Hale. I think this build of Gardevoir specifically from Abon can be more aggressive with those Turbo Energize and the Enamorous, but you want as much time as possible in case you need to make the comeback as Gardevoir, because we know the deck can do that.
Adrenabrain moves 30 damage from the Mega Absol, healing it a little bit, pushing it over to the Monkey Dory, which of course is still going to be going down here, but Hale not wanting to leave any extra damage into play will go for the Lazy Determination, getting a nice little refresh of the hand here. A little unfortunate here for Hale that he did prize that boss's orders. If he had taken it off of his prize cards, he'd have had that option to potentially close things out.
Yep, didn't hit it, but I don't think he's going to need it. I don't think Abon has any way to not just lose the game on the next turn. Abon reveals his hand. Oh, it reveals his hand because Claw of Darkness, of course. We get to take away one of the good cards.
Yes, and it looks like Counter Catcher will be the choice, removing that as an option for Abon. It is just a 1-of in his deck. Draw for turn on Abon's end. Is that a Night Stretcher, I think? A turn too late, 1 card short of getting a Ralts down.
That would have maybe been it, honestly, if we had found that on the previous turn. 1 card short there. Abon is still sticking this out. I have to imagine he sees a line here if he is continuing to play out this game. The Pheasantipity can't tank a hit for a turn.
If he had the Bravery Charm, it could.
That is true. Yeah, with the Bravery Charm plus the Lively Stadium in play, that would maybe allow for it to survive a hit, not get KO'd.
Here comes a Ralts into play. Muse restart draws 1. Flip the Script still available. Not before potentially Artisan or Ultra Ball. Those are in the hand, but no, it will be Flip the Script. No Bravery Charm is found. I actually think it might still be on the bottom of the deck from the Iono earlier.
Yeah, it could be. We did see that Artisan first, so we could have seen the deck get shuffled. But then if Lively Stadium gets bumped, do you tank the hit from the Ursaluna plus a Monkey Dory?
Oh, true. Yeah, no, you do not. Yeah, the Lively Stadium had to stay in play for Abon. And the Bravery Charm was 1 card short of being found as a draw.
There's the retreat into it, and going to move that 20 damage off the Pheasantipity. But the Ursaluna plus the Monkey Dory on Hale's side should be more than enough to close this one out.
Yeah, and that's it. And Hale did take the boss's orders as well. And another way for him to push us to a Game 3. Hale Obernolte says he is not done yet.
Yeah, not done yet. Gets the victory in that Game 2. Crazy game. Badu again with the opening to slow things down. And then, I mean, it looked really bad for Hale throughout the whole thing. But the Claw of Darkness managed to give Hale the resource advantage in the end, picking apart Abon's hand and getting the dub.
And we do officially have 1 finalist. Our other top 4 match happening out on the floor has concluded. It was Rowan Stavino versus Jackson Ford. Gardevoir versus Charizard. And Jackson Ford has come out on top. A Charizard player in the finals.
It's been a long time for that. I can't remember the last time we had a Charizard in the finals. It's been a little while, but I think we all knew it would be coming back around eventually. Just needed, you know, Dragon Ball 2, take a little bit of a back seat in the format for once, and I think we are at that point right now. So not a huge shock that we see Charizard rising to the occasion.
And it sounds like that game came down to a confusion flip as well, as things do happen so often with Monkey Dory in the mix. The Mind Bend, such a strong option. But Jackson was able to hit heads this time, able to move on to the finals and give himself a chance to claim this title. But will his opponent be Hale Obernolte or Abaan Ahmed? Both of these players are playing their hearts out, trying to push themselves forward to become a finalist here and still in the race for the title. Here we go, opening Pokemon for both these players in Game 3. I would say less than ideal on both sides, Azul.
Yeah, but I would definitely say it's worse for Hale. The Clefairy can be utilized as a pretty powerful attacker in this matchup for Abon to get ahead or stay ahead in the prize exchange. Hale, once again, not opening the trolley in the opening hand going first. Something's definitely wrong with his Mega Absol deck there. And I'm not surprised here to see Abon choosing second, favoring the more aggressive setup, especially trying to get that Turbo Energize to set up the Enamorous on that first turn problem.
Prize cards for both of these players. 1 Turbo Energize and the prizes for Abon. 1 Rare Candy as well. Ultra Ball, a couple Psychic Energies. All things that could be a little awkward, but you got to prize something, of course. Over on Hale's end, that one of Fighting Energy in the prizes means that this this Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon that he's been attaching to is not going to be able to be useful. And Abon is playing quickly here, recognizing the situation. There are under 6 minutes remaining here, and let's just recap everyone on the rules here in Top Cut. We have to have a winner. There can be no tie. So after time expires, the current player will finish that turn. They are turn 0. Then the opposing player will play one more turn. That is turn 1. And then after that additional turn, the player who is ahead on prize cards will be the winner. And if the players are tied on prizes, they will continue play until one player is ahead.
Yep, and there's an Iono from Abon, which is a big saver here for Hale. One thing I did want to point out from Hale is chose to attach that Bravery Charm to the Ogerpon, but this could backfire if Hale wants to get into a Turbo Energize on this next turn.
Yeah, if he wants to Turbo Energize, he's going to need to retreat into some other Pokemon to do it because the Bravery Charm is attached now to the active. Abon with the aggressive attachment onto the Clefairy as well, threatening a potential attack very, very quickly. Now Hale here has quite a bit more to work with. I actually think his previous hand was pretty dead. He had 2 Penny, I think, and
there's a Psyduck.
A Psyduck, yeah, another energy card. Not much going on at all. So he will be thankful to see that Abon was forced to play Iono. And Hale does indeed have the Arven, so he's got the Precious Trolley if he wants it, but
Hale has 8 cards in hand.
Oh, he does have 8 cards in hand.
Yeah, I think he drew as if it was a Lily maybe, or
he just maybe one card stuck to another one, right?
Yeah.
He drew 7, then drew for turn. Did he already draw for turn?
I actually am not sure if he drew 7.
Yeah, confirmation. He drew 7 with Iono here.
Yeah,
wow.
That is very unfortunate.
Wow.
If only he had just picked up his hand of the 7 and realized it was 7 before drawing for turn.
Yes.
It could have worked out.
Okay, so we're going to have to review this. Head Judge Pram there on the scene. Gonna get this sorted for both of us. Speaking to both of the players, you know, Pram's someone who's very, very experienced in the game. He's, of course, a longtime competitor in the game, has tons of accomplishments, so he is familiar with these situations and how to approach them. Yeah, that is something you hate to see, Azul, in this spot.
Yeah, definitely very unfortunate, especially if this is a multi-prize penalty coming up, the double prize penalty. That's a pretty big deal, not just in any normal game of Pokemon, but specifically where being ahead in prize cards is a win condition like it is in Top Cut.
Yeah.
That would make quite the difference here. And it was almost looking really bad for Hale. Was bailed out by that Iono, but it might not be enough if this does end up being a double prize penalty.
Yeah, I will say, looking at that hand as well, it didn't look like he had an energy card. So it might have been a little awkward for him to get into a Turbo Energize here, but yeah, he's going to get it sorted. It looks like they're going to be reviewing the footage here to get exact confirmation maybe of what cards were drawn improperly, right, and try to figure out which card should be placed back. And this does also get a little awkward here. You can't just shuffle the deck, right, because the bottom of the deck is ordered from the Iono that was played from Abon, right?
Yeah, and that's probably the biggest deal here maybe is that there is some order to the deck. It isn't just a sufficiently random deck that cards are drawn from. There is some order to it because of the Iono. As far as the Turbo Energize goes, talking about like the board state here, and specifically how Hale has chosen to approach this game with the Badoo aggression, and also being in a situation where simply drawing the prize cards first is a big deal. I wouldn't be surprised to see Hale go into the Badoo here aggressively as the initial play he looks for. So the Bravery Charm on the active there, not getting access to Turbo Energize might not be that big of a hindrance.
For anyone worried about the time here, things are going to be all squared away. These players will get the sufficient time added back onto the clock here. So even though there's only a couple minutes left, not going to be a problem here. We're going to get that all sorted as well. But yeah, in a high-stakes situation like this, where there's so much on the line, you want to make sure everything is in order, all the I's dotted, all the T's crossed, to make sure that everything is back exactly how it should be.
Yeah, get everything as close as possible. I think they're trying to probably identify which card is not supposed to be in the hand. There's 8 cards in the hand. There's only supposed to be 7.
Yep.
So one of them's got to go. And if they are able to identify that card exactly, get it to the top of the deck, we should be able to continue play from there.
Now, I wonder if the issue could be with the cards that were put on the bottom with the Iono, right? Because typically what could happen in this spot is, Hale would be working with information of knowing what the top card of his deck is,
yep.
right? So you would shuffle the deck, but you can't do that because the cards on the bottom were put there from Iono. So I wonder if they're going to try to retrieve those cards from the bottom, then shuffle the deck, then replace the Iono, right?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe they're going to go that extra step, even go one step further. It is all, of course, fixable through the broadcast here. We have the footage of it, so they can go back, they can watch it, they can get everything fixed as it should be. Depends on what they are ruling as far as that goes. So it might take a little bit here to resolve.
And it does look like things are just being double-checked here. This is a pretty rare situation where we're in single elimination, right? We have to have the winner. It does look like a double prize loss has already been issued by the head judge. So that means that for Abaan to win this game, in the normal sense, he would have to take 2 less prize cards. Now, I think what is being just double-checked on here is whether or not that has an effect on the sudden death situation that we find ourselves in, where whoever is ahead on prize cards first wins, because you don't actually take the prize cards. You have to take 2 less prize cards to win, right?
Yeah, I would imagine it would still apply. You're still effectively ahead on prize cards, but yeah,
but you aren't taking the prize cards, right?
This is true. We'll have to wait.
And that was changed. There was a time in the game where whenever this would happen, you would just take those prize cards, add them to your hand. But now you take less prize cards to win the game. So it was maybe a little more straightforward in the past. A little bit more has changed with the rules in the last few years. So everyone's just making sure everything is done by the book, how it's supposed to be, and we'll get updated here very, very soon. A very unique situation for sure.
Of course, yeah, we'll get the official ruling here in a second. And then that will have to also resolve where should these cards be. It looks like they found the culprit here. And now where does this card end up is the question. Pram making sure everyone is aware of it. And then...
And the deck is ordered here, so...
Oh, hold on.
Yeah, and that is, I think, what Pram is just realizing. He was about to shuffle the deck, but no. The deck was ordered from the Iono, so not quite that simple. But if we just count how many cards Hale had in hand, you can pull that many cards out from the bottom of the deck, right?
Yep, and then shuffle that single card back into the remainder of it, and then put the cards that were Iono to the bottom of the deck back on the bottom of the deck. So it is all fixable. They just need to figure out how many cards did Hale have in the hand before the Iono was played.
Yeah, and it should be pretty straightforward, right? He would have had 7 in his hand to start his turn after drawing, right? And he has the Cornerstone Mask plus the 2 he put in play, so that means 5 cards were sent to the bottom, right?
Yep, 5 to the bottom. The math has been done. Just need them to do it on stage now. I'm sure they're working through it. So everything's solved at this point. Then I guess the only thing we're waiting for is that official ruling on whether or not the 2-prize penalty will actually affect the sudden death situation. We're not in quite yet, but it's looking like we definitely end up there.
Yeah, almost certainly, right? I think it's pretty unlikely either of these players takes all of their prize cards in 4 minutes, based on the pace of these previous 2 games. So I guess more likely would be a player gets benched out potentially, which you would also hate to see.
Yeah, pretty unlikely as well. They both have artisans in play. They both have board states. We'll probably see the trolley coming in. Actually, I don't even know. There was a lot of Pokemon drawn from Hale there. It had like a Yveltal.
And I will say, I do think the 8th card that was inadvertently drawn for Hale was an Arven. So that would have gotten trolley. Now he doesn't have that.
Yep.
So it looks like the fix will indeed be to set those 5 cards out that were put on the bottom from Iono. The reveal, yes, it was indeed an Arven. Shuffling the deck now. Re-randomizing things, and now Hale will have this 7-card hand to work with. 6 from Iono plus the draw for turn.
I feel kind of left out on that reveal. Like they showed the players, the judges. They didn't. It would have been nice if they had shown us as well.
We'll have to work on Pram's camera presence.
Yeah,
for sure.
Get everyone involved.
Yeah, a little bit of a slowdown here. And we are going to get back into things here and get that confirmation as well about how the prize penalty does come into play in regards to sudden death situations. And it does look like we're hopping right back into the game. Hale is playing and shuffling his deck. He benched a few Pokemon. It looks like Lily's Determination is the supporter being played, shuffling in, and now he gets to draw those 8 cards.
Yep, and we'll see where he goes from here, playing pretty fast here. The time was added back to the clock. We have 4 minutes left, which is not a ton of time. Artisan still available as well. So if Hale wants to get into that Badoo, it is possible. I think the big card Hale is probably looking here for turn is an energy to start to establish on an Absol, though, as we go into the draw with the Kangaskhan. No energy drawn yet. There is access to the Lively Stadium in hand, and just passes, though, with no energy established. Now, we could see an E-switch later to get this Dark Energy off the Ogre Pond to get a bigger threat established.
Now over to Abaan, has the energy on the Liz Clefairy, is going to attach a Bravery Charm in order to boost that up a little bit as well for the HP, and Lily's Determination will be played, shuffling in, drawing 8 cards, has Artisan access as well here on the other end of this. Lily wants to find a few more basic Pokemon, I imagine.
Yeah, and without the Badoo, without that item lock from Hale, and no Turbo Energize, there's no threat potential on the next turn from Hale, and there's nothing stopping Abaan from getting a Candy Gardevoir. There's the Candy, and starting to attack as soon as this turn.
And I do believe we have gotten confirmation as well that the double prize loss does mean that in the turns situation, it would lead to Abaan winning. If the players were tied at 6-6, since Abaan has to take 2 less to win the game, he would indeed be the victor in that situation.
Yep. So Abaan did whiff the Candy Gardevoir there, so not going to be as aggressive of a turn here, but I don't think you're complaining when you weren't Badooed, and there was no Turbo Energize, so there's no threat coming to you on this next turn.
And it does look like, once again, Abaan has found the turn to Kirlia all 3 games.
Without Ultra Ball, right?
Turn to Kirlia has been found just straight up. And an attachment of the Darkness Energy to the Monkey Dory to be established. A retreat into the Ralts. And a pass now from Abaan. Just under 2.5 minutes now remaining. Just over 2 minutes for these players to get into the turns so we can determine who's going to be moving forward here in the event. Does seem like Arven is being used now for Hale. Found a Earthen Vessel, Bravery Charm, Psyduck being discarded. Hale is playing quickly here. Players are adjusting to the situation, recognizing, hey, we got to go fast.
Yeah, Hale looking to get into the Turbo Energizer turn, establish the Mega Absol, the main attacker, and hoping that Abaan is not able to establish a Gardevoir or too many threats on this next turn, and then start to pick apart the threats and the resources from Abaan with the Claw of Darkness.
A few cards being drawn from the run errand. Now into the hand. Hale has a bunch of cards to work with. There is that Mega Absol EX. Looks like we are going to see a Subjugating Change to push the Absol into the active spot. Well, push the Yveltal, then retreat into the Absol attachment for the turn. And Technical Machine Turbo Energize is going to load one of these Pokemon up. Which one will it be, Azul?
I think it's the Kangaskhan. I think we're going all out. Hale's already in a tremendous uphill battle. May as well get a little lucky, hit some heads. You do want to be able to one-hit KO not just the Gardevoir, which Absol can do, but also this Clefairy with the Bravery Charm. It's not weak to Dark like a lot of the other Pokemon in this deck. It's weak to Metal, so it would survive a Claw of Darkness from Hale.
Hale is going to be relying on some coin flips here, and I do believe he was pretty fortunate on his flips against Xander Perot in top 8, so there's a chance it could be Hale's Kangaskhan's day. I think there was a situation in his top 8 game against Xander where he needed 3 heads flips to KO Xander's Kangaskhan, and he did just that.
I guess as a trade-off, you either open the trolley or you hit a lot of heads on Kangaskhan. So
and we know no trolley being played by Hale.
Yeah, there's no trolley in the opening hand for Hale ever, so this Kangaskhan's looking even more threatening.
Iono being played. Looks like Abaan has found Seeker Box, so that opens up lots of possibilities, of course. It is going to be the play right away. A bunch of supporters found alongside it. A little awkward, but happy to discard Arven and Professor's Research, searching now for another supporter, and then any Pokemon Tool card, item card, and stadium card he would like.
Yeah, and is eyeing up that Ultra Ball for the Gardevoir, a Bravery Charm, and then another supporter for the following turn. So Abaan has a lot of options here, but time is now expiring, which means Abaan is turn 0 with a 2-prize lead.
Abaan ahead on the prizes, so that does mean perhaps Hale is going to have to go aggressive after this Clefairy and try to hit some heads here. It also depends here what Abaan is able to piece together now with the Gardevoir in play. Can he take any sort of prize card here this turn?
I don't think there's quite enough Psychic Energy in the discard pile. If Abaan could just KO the Yveltal, Abaan would win this game, but I think is a little bit short, but maybe tries to go ahead and pressure it anyways. Oh no, there's a third.
There is a third Psychic Energy. Looks like it's going to be the 2. Has the damage from the Monkey Dory as well here.
I mean, the third energy should do it.
The third energy would allow him to KO this Eviltal on the bench, but he's not going for it, Azul.
Well, this works as well.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, you just have to commit less energy to the Screamtail.
Yep.
This will still lead to the prize card, which should lead to game. Yeah, and Hale scoops.
Yeah, and Hale recognizes he cannot take 3 prize cards on his turn. I'm disappointed we didn't see any Kangaskhan flips, but I'm sure Abaan is not, because he is moving on to his 3rd finals in 3 tournaments.
Yeah, a 3rd finals. Absolutely insane run. Maybe? Is this the greatest run ever?